Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, and this is an interview that I had. It was an impromptu interview with RonUSMC. RonUSMC is a Twitch streamer and was very big, especially during the previous war between the Imperium and Pappy. I've known him for quite some time, and he wanted to hop on to just catch up with me, and it was a really good discussion. So I wanted to bring it to you guys. Now, we did begin with him actually muted. We had that technical difficulty. So we're going to pick up right when I fixed that. Either way, I do hope that you enjoyed the discussion as much as I enjoyed having it. And of course, thank you to all of my Patreon, all of my supporters, and Ron for being willing to come down and hang out. Without further ado, let's get on with the discussion. All right, you're not muted anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Well, yeah, hello. Yeah, it's all good, bro. Yeah, just bebopping around, man. Just playing different games and, you know, some RP, Atlas RP and Albion online and, you
There's
know.
a lot of people checking out Albion right now.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, the joke is that it's like EVE Online, but it just has some of the basic concepts, right? But it's nowhere near, you know. It's
right.
It's like Legos, you know, or something compared to EVE.
In the same genre, but nowhere near the scale.
Yeah, it has some of the concepts, right? Like, I mean, hats off to Albion because they pulled a lot of the sort of concepts that EVE has sort of perfected, or, you know, whatever, like low sec, right? High sec, null sec, like those sort of, you know, different security zones. That's in Albion, right? And there's huge areas that are, you know, all full loot PvP and this and that. But it's, you know, it's a kind of, I don't know, it's like Legos or something, you know, it's like, you know, it's very simple, simplistic, but the mechanics.
My first sandbox.
Something like that, man. Yeah, I mean, the mechanics are solid. Like it was, you know, developed and designed by gamers, because everything is freaking balanced to the nth degree. You know, everything, economy, everything.
I have heard that it's very much like EVE in the fact that, like, you change your equipment, you change your job. Like,
yep, yeah. There's no attributes, right?
Are you playing with I know, like, Blue and Queenie moved over there and had like a clutch of people with her. Are you part of that group, or are you doing your own thing?
No, I'm with Nazori.
Okay.
You remember Nazori?
The name stands out, but I
yeah, he was a meerkat. He was a meerkat, right, like during the war and before the war. And what I mean, the funny thing is, like, I know the Albion people from them watching the war, and that's how I know Nas and Black Boa, who's a big Albion streamer. You know, he too, like, and I, you know, I have to tell you, man, the community over there, it's, you know, has that great dichotomy, right? Like Black Boa, dude, everyone was so nice to me, because I went over because of Megs, Nazori's wife, convinced me to try it. Nas and Megs are both like, well, you know, because I don't like the look of it, right? Like, it looks like,
yeah, it looks kind of
goddamn Roblox or some shit, right?
Yeah,
like, it's just ugh. But they were like, oh no, try it. If you just try it. So I tried it for a couple days. You know, it's actually okay. You know, the mechanics are solid. The economy is solid. You know, it's like an ugly girlfriend, man. If you can get over the looks, you're gonna have a good time.
That reminds me, I was really surprised to find out that, like, RuneScape Classic is one of the top MMOs right now. Like,
right?
That's bizarre. But okay, so obviously everybody would get mad at me if I didn't at least talk to you about this, though.
Oh yeah.
Have you been paying attention to the test stuff? Like, they were in the news today.
No. What is?
Test is officially no longer a Sov holding empire.
Oh, Thank God.
Their sovereignty has been reduced to 0.
Oh, thank God.
Quite a That's a good reaction.
Oh God. Will
Uh,
will that reduce the number of hate posts per day? Like, they're probably not. Damn it. So the hate posts will
no.
continue?
Yeah, hate posts will continue until morale improves.
Okay, well.
Which,
Okay.
at this point, might take an expansion.
I mean, here's, I think, the one thing that people sort of like have always trouble grasping with test, right? Test is from Reddit, right?
Right.
So it's Reddit, and and it was Reddit 12, 13 years ago, and it was literally a post on Reddit. Does anyone want to try this spaceship game with me? That
I
was
remember
it.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I mean,
we all went and
the,
played.
the name is also just a post, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
comes from the early days of Reddit where there was a test post, please ignore.
yeah, yeah, because that was the most upvoted post at that time,
Right.
right? So, like, it's just a group that enjoys gaming together. I think where people kind of get mixed up is we're not a cult. you know, People go and do things different and go and play different games and and come back or whatever, and it's open to everyone. It's just, you know, it's just a group of people that like to play the spaceship game. There's no, huge hidden agenda or anything like that. It's just a bunch of people that, you know,
Are you
take
still
care.
connected with them then?
Oh, dude, until death.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, do you know anything about the expansion? Are you excited about it at all? Is that going to hopefully bring you back, or?
Um, I I can tell you straight up, right? What would bring the majority of, and I don't know like where I would be, but like what I would say is the sort of the senior, I guess, like Eve Online big nullsec players. Um, what would bring us back are mechanics changes.
Right.
Like it's just that simple. Like
So
it's
the
the
prevailing
ability to evict people, period. We can't do that right now.
abandoned structures have made it a little bit better, but yeah, you're right. I think that. So, what about the prevailing theory with this current event is that
Mm-hmm.
the technology that they're building is basically the same technology that will be given to nullsec in order to customize their space, right? That nullsecers will
Mm-hmm.
be able to fire one of their own personal transmuters and alter the system in various different ways based on that. Do you think that
Mm-hmm.
is the kind of thing that you're talking about, or is that just more fluff?
Well, I mean, I think that's wonderful. I mean, it's very cool. But what about the destruction of that? How does that work?
I don't know. We might find that out
Yeah.
soon. Those things
See,
seem
that's
like they
that's
would be
the
very
thing,
dangerous to
right?
blow up. That's for sure.
Yeah, like, hey, I think it's wonderful that people can build their own little village and they can put a little ice cream truck there. I think that's wonderful. And they can do their little roads. But how do we blow that shit up from the bottom up? Like that's really, you know, like people like me or whatever, like we've already owned everything except for a Moloch, but everything else, we've already owned everything. We've already done it all. And
Right.
now what we want to do is just destroy each other, right? Like just big battles. That's what, we find the most fun.
Right. Yeah, that is actually a really interesting point where it's like if the problem is conflict drivers, I feel like a transmitter like this would even be going like in the opposite direction. Like if the problem was that all of the nullsec empires had enough control over their system that like they no longer had to fight with each other for space, doesn't this just make it that again, like with the ore changes, making it so that like no one piece of space will have everything. Like if you can just customize this system now gives me tritanium and this system gives me this, like what's to prevent the nullsec groups from just turtling up again?
Right?
That's what I worry about.
Mm-hmm. But like, you know, even if they do turtle, it's like you can't get rid of them, right? Like
Well, that's my
people are
point.
too
Like
big to fail. Yeah.
the problem is that when the empires are when it's a better idea to just defend and harvest as much as you possibly can because there's
Right.
no reason to take one space over another, then that's what people do, and then we have rampant, you know, accumulation of wealth, which leads to scarcity, which makes everybody mad. So like, I'm more concerned about them introducing something to Null that would just make that problem happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Yeah,
after
I mean,
everything we went through to fix it.
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, and obviously I'm sure they have, plans upon plans, and I think building and all of that is just great. It's just I'm always thinking about, well, you know, what about being able to get rid of that or to destroy it, or if I
Right.
build, you know, like some super special space station, how does, you know, not only does it get destroyed, but how can I defend it, right? Like, I think there's a lot of really interesting ways, of going about that, and there's several different opportunities for how those mechanics can change, and I don't know. I think that's really what would be the big thing for us, but maybe we're just dinosaurs, right? And we're the old crew, and the new crew is something different and something more exciting, and I think that's cool too. It's all good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's actually, so this is one of the things I was kind of alluding to earlier when I was saying like maybe this expansion isn't for you. Um, you mentioned earlier it's like what will bring back the experienced players. I think here's an interesting question though. Do you think that CCP's priority should be catering or bringing back the old players, or making it so that new players are stick with it and cultivating a new population?
I totally am 100% about the acquisition of new players.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
we should be, a side view, and they shouldn't cater to us in any way, right? I think it should always, always, always be about new players, fresh blood, the new player experience, getting new people in, and that because, as Eve is in the best place it's ever been in, right? It's the best
Right.
place it's ever been in. So getting those new players and doing those sort of cross pollination things with Doctor Who or whatever, just getting people to even try the game out, right?
Yeah.
Enough people are going to quit the game because they don't like it, right? Enough
Right.
people are going to do that. So at least if you could just get people to try the damn thing out, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what it needs, right? We need more, and if they go nullsec, we need more superpowers. We need more enemies. We need, and if they go high sec, right on. Like it's all good. I think there's always a place and need for all the different, kinds of play styles and personalities and that kind of thing.
I think that the key here is that CCP literally can't make content for nullsec in the way that they would like it to be. Oleg, thank you for joining us down the rabbit hole. But because like it's player driven, that's the whole point of it, right? CCP is the E in PvE, as I like to say. So, but the only thing that CCP can do to give you content is to increase the player base, right? By making new players come and join and stay, that is going to be your content, right? That's how you get experienced players things to do. Padnik, thank you for joining us. So I think that's, I mean, I don't think that it's a bad priority, and I think that it's really, it seems obvious to me that this expansion is designed, like all of the prep work leading up to the expansion and the way that this expansion seems to be kind of coming out appears to be the kind of thing where a new person that is deciding that they want to check out Eve, now that they saw the expansion trailer or something like that, uh, they have a much higher chance of getting hooked and getting involved than ever before. And I think that that's the whole point, because like if they can have a giant recruitment event like we've had before in like BTEC or anything like that, and you have a retention of 10% instead of 2%, like the thing is that this, our entire population could become like a tenth of the population. Like that's why I say like we could be in the before times. We could very well easily be, our population is small enough and the game is niche enough that if it were to become a bigger game, that population would dwarf us. We would become the minority. And it isn't impossible to do that because EVE has always been a niche game, but it doesn't have to be. And it never had to be. So if they can make it not a niche game anymore, then suddenly we are just the artifacts that get to tell people about the before times the long, long ago.
I'm totally with you. Like, I think, CCP just needs to do, what they need to do to take EVE for the next 10 or 20 years. And, the current players, we might not like it or whatever, but, they know what they're doing. And, hey, some of the things suck. And maybe we just are not part of that future. And that's okay, too, right? Like, it could be, people running Abyssals, right? Like, and a lot of people hate Abyssals, but honestly, there's nothing like it except maybe Elite Dangerous-ish, kinda, but it's nowhere near the quality that EVE can deliver on that front. You know what I mean? Like, it's, right. You're never ever gonna satisfy everyone. And the people that have spent an insanely large amount of time in the game, right, where the game becomes part of their identity, and then any change to that, they take as a personal offense on their identity, right? Like you're harming them. But no, EVE's going to do its own thing, and when the demolition crews are available for destruction of various things, of everything, when mechanics change and they make it a little bit better, then I'm sure you'll see a resurgence of people coming out, right? Like, it's always about, I was just talking about this a few weeks ago, like, oh, hey, what if I financed X war? And, it's not about that, right? It's not about financing a war. It's about being able to convince people, to go and fight this war and that there is a result. Even if you lose, at least, there's some sort of result, right? There's some sort of win conditions. And, right now, it's a very gray area, right? Like it's super gray area. So some sort of, mechanics change, systems being destroyed completely, or some black hole or something that destroys everything in the solar system. I don't know. You
mean like a transmuter exploding and destroying all of Turner?
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
They are definitely setting up the idea that one of these or more of these Amarian Stargates are going to have an ecological disaster. I'll just put it that way. But yeah, I have somebody, the Key Orion's kind of talking about how the only thing that is permanent is like skins and stuff like that. That everything you build, everything you do is temporary. And I believe that he was saying that as if it's a bad thing. Like, why should I do anything if it's never going, if I know it's not going to last? Because it's the sandbox, right? Like, that's the whole point. You can't have everybody being able to put up a structure that just never goes down, because then you'll just have 1,000 structures of players that just don't even play anymore, right? Everything requires maintenance to exist. However, here's the thing. If you're interested in doing something that isn't ephemeral, get involved in the current events and arc. The way to mark your moment in history is the fact that, if you go and become a hero of the Gallente, you will always have been the hero of the Gallente during this event, right? The way you make something permanent is by etching your name in history. We dismay like all they did is put names on a plaque. That name on a plaque will last way longer than most of the people playing this game, let alone their structures. Sorry, that's just all how I feel about it.
You go, brother. Dude, you know what's funny? If you look at the PMs between me and you, the first PM, when I first found your channel, like in, what was it, 2017?
Oh, Lord.
And I'm like,
yeah.
dude, you should be an ISD. Because you were talking about, the different races and Galante and all that. It was awesome.
Yeah, you're not the first person to have suggested such a thing. But as I say, like, the more I'm just on this side working for you guys, the more I can speculate and inform and such. If I was ISD, then I would be bound by their rules, which is less fun.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I don't know, like, I think, kind of going back to the test thing, my serious answer is, it's all good, man. That, this sort of powerhouse or whatever that was there before, was created by a group that are, not around as much anymore, right?
Right.
So it's time for new leadership, and it's time for new people to kind of come in and maybe, they aren't interested in that, and maybe they want to do low sec, faction warfare, right?
Right.
Getting back to our roots. Maybe they want to do that. And to be honest, I always, take exception to people that, like me, let's say, who aren't as super involved right now, like kind of dictating the future of what they should be doing, right? They're going to do whatever they want to do. And I support them 100%,
Yeah, it is interesting that, like, I've kind of seen a shift, like, as kind of the old guard becomes more and more mad about what's happening. I have seen a lot of, like, the newer players start to become almost like an okay boomer attitude towards old school players, right? Like at a certain point, it's just like, hey man, I'm trying to enjoy the game. I find it fun. Stop being an asshole so that way we can't talk about it or, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm seeing more and more of that. People are kind of becoming fed up with experienced players trying to tell everybody that this isn't cool or this isn't fun or everything sucks when it does. And I've had to explain to people, like, because people are like, why are they so upset? And I'm like, well, because, things changed. And it's like, but it's there's so much to do. And I was like, yeah, well, there's not their thing to do. So, but a lot of them can't even process it because they just see those experienced players as, because it also is that thing of like the whole idea of like, I can never catch up, right? So a new player already is kind of predisposed to think of experienced players as being like the competition, the threat, the thing that's going to give them the most trouble. I'm never going to be able to catch up with them, right? So this idea of like, dude, just shut up and let us enjoy the game is, it kind of makes sense as a reaction. And they may actually be happy that the experienced players are getting out of the way, because you're right, we need new leadership, but we can't have new leadership as long as the powers that be remain in power.
Yeah, and dude, like dude, it is such a culture of hate. Like, it is so hateful, man. Like, it is just so fucking toxic. It is just unbelievable, man. Like, and it's good to kind of let, the new people come in and kind of take over and just kind of maybe get rid of all those old scars, and all those wounds. Like, it's just so toxic, man. Like, ugh. Dude, somebody just called me a Nazi like 3 days ago, man. Like, it's so draining, dude.
Yeah, that's the other half of it, which is that, like, we always talk about how great our community is, but yet we keep, especially recently, been having more and more problems about people behaving. Like, new players come in, and they leave. Not because Eve is bad, not because they're bored, not because it's too difficult, but because they don't like the flagrant racism in local or whatever, right? Like
Right.
I've talked to several people that are that way. You know, it's the community itself that's driving them away.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the best and the worst, right? Like, it's the best community you'll ever meet, but you know, also the worst, right? Like, it's that dichotomy of the extremes. You know, because I've met people in game, you know, that are still really good friends, you know, to this day, and I'll probably, you know, they'll probably always be in my life, right? And then I've met people that, you know, I wouldn't want to be in the same building with, right? Like, it's just, it's crazy, right? Like, the game attracts all different kinds, you know. I think, but the sort of the outward sort of hate, man, really just needs to, I don't know. People keep
To me,
talking
it's the
about like
it's the tolerance of intolerant behavior, right? We have this
yeah,
idea that
yep,
since it's a sandbox, everybody, you know, people can do what they want to do. But like, as I said, like a few weeks ago, like Gamergate is over, guys. Like we've moved on and become more civilized as a people, and that kind of stuff is just not tolerated anymore.
yep. I totally agree. Like, it's just, and people just need to start reporting more, man, and just, you know, um, if somebody says something, just report them. You know, it and they will like take care of it. You know, eventually, and eventually those people get you know, removed, and maybe new blood, fresh blood will come in and change things, and I think it'll be great, man. Like, it's just, you know, it's like watching, you know, the world kind of change around you, and you know, maybe what's to come, right? Like, maybe there'll be huge mechanic changes, and maybe there'll be, you know, a position, right? Like, you know, if there's a 500 versus 500 fight, right? Like, hey, you know, I know lots of people that are willing to get involved in that, but you know, just kind of pushing around TCUs or whatever, right? Pushing around Sov, or killing a Fortizar here, killing a Fortizar there. I don't know, man. Like, I've been there and done that so many times that I
Right.
just don't have time for it, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unless it's something big, like, uh, you know, just let the machine pick it up.
But here's the thing, though: is it a bad thing that you can be done with the game? Is it really a problem that a person that's been playing this game for over a decade has done it all and feels like bored of it? Like, it's provided you that much content. I do find that a lot, where, especially when I'm talking to people about like the Abyss, there's this
Mhm.
specific breed of people that complain about the Abyss who also like made a ton of money off of it, and so they're
Mhm.
bored. Like, they've gone through the process of like getting good at it, getting past it, exploiting it, making tons of money. They've brought themselves to the point of boredom, and so they complain about it and want other things, or want it to be removed, or, you know, think it's boring. But it's like, it's in other video games, it's perfectly acceptable to finish the content, right? Like, we
Right.
feel there's this feeling like everything in Eve should be repeatable ad nauseum through all eternity.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's sort of this kind of weird arrogance on gamers, right? That, you know, and I actually just saw, you know, sort of like this strain of argument on Escape from Tarkov, right? Like,
Yeah, that's another one.
I got, you know, my whatever $15 a month or whatever on all of my accounts. I got my money's worth 1,000-fold out of Eve.
Oh yeah.
Like, Eve owes me nothing, period, right? Like, in this transaction, I got so much from it, dude. Like, I've got so many wonderful memories. I've got so many great fights. I got so many friends, you know. I've gotten so much out of my, you know, relationship with Eve, that Eve never has to give me another thing, you know, never, right? They don't have to, you know, whatever. And I'll play it if I can, and if it's cool or whatever, like, I'll play, but they don't need to cater to me, you know what I mean? And
Right.
it's the same with like Escape from Tarkov, right? Like, or even New World, right? Dude, at New World, I got my money's worth, man. Like, I paid what, $40 for that game, and I got hundreds of hours of amazing questing and, just super fun, great fights. And it was awesome. Hey, you know what? Duping and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Like, they don't owe me like a lifestyle. They don't owe me to occupy 6 hours of my day every day, right? Like, I got my money's worth out of it, man. Like, I don't know. I know, like, people, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And, it's the same argument that I just saw in Tarkov, right? Oh, I've got, what did he say? I've got 6,500 hours in the game and I'm freaking bored. Like, what? Like, bro, like, you don't need to play this shit for 12 hours a day, man. Like, you can play less and get a ton out of it, right? Like,
I think that
thankful,
it's even more. Yeah. It's more true with Eve though, because like in my opinion, at a certain point, the obligation is on you. It's a sandbox game. Like, we got to be willing to build castles. If you're complaining about not enough content, then grab an objective and go do it. People are going to stop you. There's going to be conflict. Like, if you're bored right now, go try to build a gate or not build a gate or stop the gate. It's not like, don't give a shit about whether or not it's faction warfare. Just go there and stop people from doing what they want to do and try to do what you want to do while people are stopping you. That is the essence of the conflict of Eve. But if you're not willing to make those objectives, draw a line in the sand and say, this is what I'm trying to do in such a way that other people can try to stop you, then yeah, there's no content there. You are a key component to the manufacturing of content in EVE Online. That's the point of a sandbox.
Yeah. And it's, it's, people always, would ask me, well, what does it take to be an FC? Well, first, you're going to need to send out a ping and you're going to need to tell people to join you. And number two, you need to undock. And congrats. You're now
the biggest part of being an FC is being annoying enough to collect together a fleet, right? Like, the biggest thing is just posting your fleet every fucking 10 minutes in chat or whatever until you have enough people.
Right. Yeah. It's like, go out and do it. And it's funny, I was doing like Eve style, I call it, in Albion this morning, and it was absolutely hilarious. Albion's very kind of like small gangish, fly your own ship kind of thinking like that. And I'm just like, everybody, let's go. I don't care what you're wearing. Let's go. And, we all died and we're just cracking up. It was hilarious. But, it's all good, man. Like, just have some fun. And, if you're going to sit and station spin and complain, like, get a hobby, man. Like, do something. Like, grab some people, go do something, go explore, go map this, go map that, just go out and adventure and find your own thing.
Take something you used to scoff at and try to do it. I mean, I used to scoff at spreadsheets in space. I used to say, I don't play spreadsheets in space, I kill those who do. Right?
Yep,
but once I started getting into industry, there's a lot to it, man. It's actually kind of fun. And then you have to start solving problems. And then some of those solutions involve having to get other people involved because you can't or don't want to do it all yourself. And now you're having to like create a whole network of people. That's a whole different kind of challenge. And that's fun in its own right. So Riley points out, content threatens empires. You come from a major empire.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this do you think is the empires like projecting their goals on things and people picking it up even if it's not in their best interest, right? Like, an individual may want to just go off and have whatever content they want, but an empire wants stability and so would promote messages that are pro stability as opposed to pro chaos. Do you think that that's actually part of this, or do you not think so?
I think it's thinking too much into it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's, I don't think, I think people like what they like, on that sort of, that basic level. And, people, no matter what they say, like, are always trying to think of what kind of rule changes would benefit me and hurt them, right? And it's always that sort of weighing in, you know. And I remember, and you probably remember this. This is several years ago. And I forget his name. So on Reddit, do you remember there was this big post, and it was about changing the values of some obscure, I don't know, meerkat thing or whatever. And some guy like went on this huge rant, and everyone was like, yeah, they're oppressing us and da 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 da. And was it CCP Quant? I think it was posted. He's like, you guys are literally talking about 0.1% of the people. That's
where the
numbers.
300 millionist ticks came from, right?
Yeah. He's like, I know the numbers, and you're talking about a dozen people. Everyone is sitting here talking like it's some huge like racial oppression and like human rights issue. He's like, you guys don't have no idea what you're talking about. This is so few people that this change will affect nobody, hardly anyone.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there was that big thing, and I just remember that was like this kind of moment of, for me personally, it was like this kind of moment where this sort of mob rules, where, oh, this and oh, that, and this is going to destroy us, and oh, this, it's all mostly bullshit, right? Because CCP like actually sees the numbers, and they're making decisions based on actual facts, not this constant flow of meta, right?
Right.
From Eve or from the subreddit or from wherever, or from talk shows or from me even, right? Like it's just whatever. It's like they're looking at the numbers and they're saying, hey, you know what? This is a problem, right? And people will say, oh, this was never a problem. Oh my God, this is so stupid. God, what? They have no idea what they're doing. And then meanwhile, right, there's some quiet nerd sitting in the corner, twirling his mustache while he's sitting on 400 trillion worth of hobgoblins or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? Like
I said that there were two kinds of people during scarcity: those loudly complaining about it and those quietly profiting from it.
And that's what it. And I remember that. And I mean, the unfortunate thing is I love that. But you remember then, like it was like 2 months later, he left CCP.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was probably,
I mean, like people,
a little bit of space or whatever. But like, I just love that post, dude.
People got onto him about it. Like people scoffed at it, even though it was literally true.
Yeah. I mean, he was looking at the numbers. It affected like a dozen people. But people were acting like it was this huge, insane ratting change that was going to destroy the world. It's like, oh my God. So, it's like I see that, right? And I see, on Reddit and I see people talking about these, and what about this and what about it? Like, I don't know, man. I've talked to the devs like extensively.
Right.
They know the game backwards and forwards, but more so, they have access to the actual numbers. You know what I mean? Like how many Titans are in Eve? Too. They know, we don't, right? Like how many of this? Like they have the actual numbers. It's like rather than the bullshit of, oh, X says this and Y says that, and no, they're trying to do this to us. Hey, they could just like look at the freaking database, man. Like this is how many there are. And there's too many of these, so we need to do something to weed them out a little bit, Hey, do your thing, man.
And everybody's position, like if you see it online, chances are it's more based on agenda and bias than anything like an honest pursuit of things that are out of line or something like that, right? Like,
yep.
And the issue with that, and the reason why I bring it up, is because Eve is a competitive game that also deals with more aspects of the game than most other games deal with. A good example is like the ganking conversation that we had earlier, right? Like one person's problem is another person's gameplay. Mm-hmm. If they made ganking worse, then they're making it worse for gankers. And guess what? Gankers are people too, right? Like it's about the balance between those things more than anything else. But if you listen to any one position, then it'll be their side of the equation. There's another side to that equation.
What was the gank? I think I might have come in at the end of that. What was the ganking?
There's been a large resurgence of discussion about whether or not ganking and griefing in high sec should be allowed, which is kind of now culminated in Hateless and promoting, and a bunch of people like submitting reimbursement tickets and getting reimbursements from ganks.
Okay.
And this is, you know, there are people that are loudly of the opinion that this is okay, this is not okay, ganking should be removed from the game, Hateless should be banned for promoting tickets, the whole gambit. It's the thing.
Well, I mean, so number one, Hateless is a treasure, period. Right? He runs high sec missions. He helps new players. Like
that's
he's
the
a
thing,
treasure.
is that he stopped. He says that he's not going to make content anymore for Eve unless CCP quote fixes the griefing problem. That was kind of the beginning of this whole mess.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Like,
it's his prerogative for sure.
Yeah, but you know how much work this shit is. Like, yeah, he's doing it for free, by the way. Yeah. So, okay, yeah, brother, I'm with you, man. I hate that shit. Like, I hate ganking and I hate all that. I don't want it removed, but I think, I've always hated that stuff. And
yeah. Well, to summarize my opinion, so that way I don't rant about it again, because it's being talked about. My opinion is that ganking is an essential component of the mechanics of Eve, therefore should not be removed completely. That it is absolutely acceptable to put in a ticket when you lose a ship, or if you have any doubts about what happened at all, right? CCP is free to just reject it if they want to.
Yeah, like what does that have to do with any of us, right? Like, hey, hey, you're not allowed to submit a ticket to Frigidaire over your refrigerator. You're not allowed
whether or not Hateless should be advocating people submitting tickets for
fuck people.
Right, exactly.
First.
Like, if you want to submit a ticket, submit a ticket. CCP has never. CCP has always indicated, when in doubt, submit a ticket. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But like, so I agree with everything you said. Like, I mean, like, I got a ship reimbursed by CCP in 2015, 2016. I got ganked on a gate, and I submitted a ticket, and I got reimbursed for it. But mine is why? What's the like? Who cares?
That was actually one of the questions that I had.
I mean, like who cares? Do people know how reimbursement works? Like, do they know how it works? Like, when you get reimbursed by a GM, the only things that you get are what were destroyed. You don't get in a completely new ship. You know what I mean? So you're going to get the hull and like 2 or 3 modules. That's it.
What it is that you get what was destroyed.
Yep.
So if a module dropped, it does not get reimbursed.
Correct.
Because otherwise you could duplicate items. In fact, actually, this is actually a really funny one, because one of the side notes in all of this was that there was a Reddit post where somebody was making fun of a GM reimbursement because they reimbursed him like 1.5 ISK. And it was like, me and somebody from CCP was having to like sit down and explain to him. It's like, when you have something reimbursed, they undo the entire thing. You got ISK when that ship was destroyed because of insurance. So if they reimburse the ship, they also take back the insurance. The ship that you lost was a Praxis, and 1 trit ain't worth a lot. So that's what happened.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't understand why people care.
That's what I was saying. Like, I think that there's a certain piece to here where it's like, if I gank an Orca and then that Orca is reimbursed, I feel like CCP has taken something from me, even though they haven't exactly, right? But they've taken away my kill. They've taken away the pain that I have inflicted upon that other person. And people seem to be reactive to that.
I'm looking at the kill now. I don't know if you've ever heard of this place. called Tama. But I got ganked there in 2014.
No, you didn't. You did not get
I
ganked in
did.
Tama. You
I
died in
did. I
Tama.
did. To the Sleeping Dragons, Bleak Horizon Alliance, Sorry About Your Face, the Scope, Solar Slaves, I'd Rather Be Roaming. Yeah. I got ganked by those some bitches. Johnny Blaze was the final.
Oh my god. Those are names
Was
I
the
haven't heard in a long time.
Dave Locke. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I got ganked by them in 2014 and I got this reimbursed. It's yeah.
That's
I got
wild.
this. Yeah, so in 2014, and I mean I remember what it was about too, because if you remember, like back then, it was people were putting 400 drones on the gate. So when you would go through the gate, you would just be locked up, right? Like the gate wouldn't even load for like 20 seconds. And they would put all kinds of shit and corpses and everything on the gate. They eventually cleaned that up, like
Right. I remember
6
that.
or 7 months later, 9 months later, whatever. And then they were like issuing like, you know, and then they tried to put bubbles. They'd put 100 bubbles, you know. But like that was, I remember because I didn't even load into the gate. I just died. Nice fit, by the way. Nice fit. I'll post it in your chat.
Yeah, let me give you a permission. Permit Ron. I think that the big thing is that what is damaged here isn't the ganker or the ganky or anything like that. I think that the real problem, if there is one, is that it's a damage to the integrity of the game, right? It goes, it's like the nullsec stuff, right? Like if something gets undone, then people feel like, well, it's the mentality of the ball is played where it lands, right? Like if people get reimbursed for things other than technical issues, then we are not playing a simulation. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. But let me just. Did anyone actually get reimbursed? I mean, really?
Well,
it sounds like bullshit to me. Like, honestly, like, for me, it sounds like gankers are trying to make people look like crybabies. Like, you know what I mean?
We have a guy in chat. I did actually, I pointed that out too, where it's like, you aren't even supposed to be showing off GM correspondences, so, and it's all questionable anyways, but, you know, we do have at least one where the person in chat said that this is his, and he had his ship reimbursed. There's been a couple of people that have been suggesting that they got their orcas reimbursed after being ganked.
But this could be anything, right? Like this, like everyone kind of gets like one kind of pass. You know, I mean that's kind of known.
Oh, wait, hold on. Is this one saying that he is being reimbursed or not? Hold on, let me actually read this carefully. Character, because this is the guys. This GM is even saying suicide ganks are considered part of normal gameplay mechanics as per our policy, and and I'm therefore not able to provide any reimbursement for your loss. So there you go. So this person's actually saying that they weren't reimbursed.
Yeah.
This person is saying that they did, but all we have is like Discord chat and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
I mean, well,
we don't
Discord,
even know if this is right. If it's on Discord, it must be true.
Yeah,
right?
that's basically law. Basically, that's basically law. I mean, that's suitable for congressional hearing if it's on Discord. I mean, hey, you know what? Some people might have gotten reimbursed, dude. And like, hey, you know what? Okay, whatever. They're not getting anything extra. And it might be something else. But like, it's just this sort of weird kind of generalization, like wanting to call people crybabies and whatnot. It's just weird, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, my opinion is suicide ganking is an essential part of the mechanics of the game.
Yes, I agree.
People should be able to submit whatever tickets they want. People should not get reimbursed for suicide ganks, but that's up to CCP. And
and there's always all kinds of weird circumstances, you know, like, hey, some jackass put 400 drones on the gate, and when you came through, you didn't even see it. Hey, you know what? But like CCP can work that out. Like that's not even like our business. You know what I mean?
You know,
like, what the hell do we have to say?
My favorite example of this was there was it was a lay lapse. I have a video about this because I covered it at the time. I think it was a lay lapse that was fighting and got killed, but
A what?
It's one of the newest AT ships. The
Oh, yeah,
AT
yeah,
ship.
yeah,
Got killed, but it happened to be while he was on grid with Triglavian and Rasnaborg. So he submitted the ticket as a wrongful death, and it was just, somebody rubber stamped it because there's problems with
yeah.
standings, right? So
Yep.
they reimburse those aggressively. So he got his Laylabs reimbursed, and everybody was freaking out about it. But then CCP took it back. But that, I mean, yeah, mistakes get
That's
made.
hilarious.
But ultimately,
Dude, the people get like one kind of free pass,
Yeah, I have noticed that CCP is more about that recently.
Like, here's my thing, man. Like,
Raiju. Sorry, Raiju. It was a Raiju, not a Laylabs.
Oh, okay, Raiju, okay. Yeah, I mean, like, here's my thing, man. Like, dude, if they've been playing the game for less than 6 months, and if reimbursing their damn ship helps them log back in the next day, I say do it, man. And don't tell anyone, to hell with it.
They should give you a blueprint and the materials to rebuild it and go make it.
Yeah, or go to your nearest office and report it, right? Report your insurance or something to that, and they can do that. They can give you, a blueprint or something and give you some materials. Or go pick up the materials from the warehouse, right? That's in low sec, and and here's your blueprint, and you can make a new one, and insurance now complete. We consider the matter closed. I'm down, man. I love it. Like, anything is better than just brutally getting smacked in the face for something you don't know what is happening, right? You don't know all the mechanics. You don't know Johnny Jackass is playing little can flipping games, and you don't know that. And it pisses you off, right? Like, it pisses you off. People are like, oh, well, you just can get better. Bro, they left the game. Like, it's that simple. They left the game. Like, and there's a lot more choices nowadays than there used to be. And if people die for no reason, they don't, and the only people, that are there are just laughing at them or whatever. Like, hey, fuck it, man. Give them whatever they want, dude. Like, if it helps them come back and play and enjoy.
I think that part of the problem is not just the loss itself. One of the things that the person doesn't realize is how insignificant that loss really is. Because a newer player that has this happen to them has no sense of scale. Hell, even experienced players may have no sense of scale depending on the circumstances. But it is not just about the loss, but it's about our relationship with loss and whether or not we respond to loss in a way that is compatible with EVE Online. And that is both the responsibility of the player and of the game. The game needs to teach people and help people understand that kind of concept. This is why you die twice during the MPE. I don't know, 3 times now.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily sufficient. I've actually advocated that career agent should not tell you that you are going to die. They should just be like, go here, do this thing. And then suddenly something happens. Like, the problem isn't that you died. The problem is that something went wrong, right? Like, and how you deal with that, how you pick yourself back up and say, okay, well, I'm going to learn from this, or I'm going to be mad at it. Is I think what really defines you.
Right. Man, the big streamer that was over here, the English guy, I really like him. He's actually given me advice over the years. A very, very nice guy. I forget. He was streaming here, and I saw him, and I came over. I said hi, and he's like, oh, you stream? I said, yeah. This is the the game that I got partnered with. Like, if there's anything I can do for you, in the game, like, you want to, he was talking about wanting to do like a stealth bomber run. Yeah, dude, anything you want, I can make it happen. Anything in the game. And so I was just sitting there lurking, right? And like 15 or 20 minutes into it, he's like doing like some of the career missions or something. And he asked a question, and somebody in the chat said, oh, well, just do it, but and he like got exploded, right? And he said, well, how do I learn how to do it? He said, oh, well, you're learning now, right? Like, you'll eventually learn from just getting destroyed. And he goes, yeah, that's not really teaching, is it? That's just punishing for the wrong answer. And
Well,
I think that's kind of one of the things here, right? Like it's, oh, you'll eventually learn. Eh, I think there can be, more help around that kind of stuff,
right. But I think that that's the bigger problem is expectation management and feedback, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the way I like to think about it is that same exact concept is illogical in Dark Souls. Like, you don't hear people complaining about how they had to die a lot to get good at Dark Souls. You hear people saying that proudly, right? It's all about
Right.
expectation management. But the real reason why it feels unfair is because EVE Online fails at feedback, right? The kill mail doesn't
Mm-hmm.
actually tell you much. If you just get exploded, if you get ganked, chances are you have no idea what the hell actually just happened. You know,
Right.
if you die in PvP as a new player in a frigate, it probably goes so fast that you don't even realize the mistake that you made. The Abyss is a little bit better at this because I like to say that things are going fine until they're not. So it's easy to identify what went wrong. But for the most part, EVE is really, really, really bad at giving people the feedback that they require to actually obtain mastery on their own.
Right. I and I think, that it's such a, like you can say lawless universe or whatever, but the weak, right? The lack of skill people, they always want to feed on the people that, are weaker than them, right? Like it's the food chain kind of thing. But
Right.
and feeding on new players, is the epitome of, coward, right? Weak.
It's
And
it's the
hunting them
freshman
is,
hazing, right?
oh my god, dude, it's so ridiculous. But like, here's the thing, like, and this is actually one of the kind of the last arguments, or not argument, but like one of the last big long discussions I got into on the partner Discord before I left was, that there was a new streamer, right, and he was trying to stream the game, and but he was, smaller guy, but like there was somebody coming and harassing him in the starter system, right? Now,
Right.
they didn't know he was a streamer, right? So it was like kind of like being able to, see from, kind of like a bird on the wall or something. And this guy was like harassing him, like trying to get him to pay him money, and he didn't have any money, right? And then, he played some little games with him and got him, to shoot at him, to shoot at the ganker guy. And then, the streamer got destroyed, right? But he didn't know like what that was even about because he was still in the middle of doing the starter missions. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like and it shows his pod on screen. He's like, all right, now what do I do? Like, I don't, and then,
Yeah.
but
The
even
process
more
of
so,
sorry.
he didn't even know that people are not allowed to do that shit in starter systems. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And the issue is that when it happens, he doesn't think, "Oh, this must be a component of the game," because he still is evaluating it from his core assumptions. So what ends up happening is confusion and a
Right.
sense of wrongness, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give you enough feedback to be like, "Hey, by the way, this is what if what if when you died, you were able to watch the telemetry data, like you could recreate the last minute of your ship's existence, and then you could like
Mm-hmm.
you could troll over that data to try to figure out exactly what went wrong. I feel like that kind of thing would go a long ways to empowering a person, because we tell people, hey, if you get ganked, no problem. If you die, no problem. If you get killed, no problem. Just grab another ship and go. But they don't feel like they've made it anywhere. They don't feel like now they are in a different place than whatever it was that just fucked them up before. So
Mm-hmm.
if you gave them the tools to actually pick themselves up, not just in the case of ships, but also allow them to be like, this is the mistake I did, this is what I need to do better, then like, all you're doing is basically saying, hey, grab a new ship and go die again for our amusement. And that's how a lot of people interpret it.
Maybe you can kind of help me understand. Like, what is this really odd fascination with orcas and high sec? Like, why is this such a like an ordeal? Like,
Um,
I,
well, so as multi-boxing picked up in
mhm,
2015, 2016, and the mining changes happened, the Orca ended up having sufficient enough mining capabilities that, and it has the tank to survive most ganks, and it mined competitively with mining barges. So you could just get a bunch of orcas, drop them in a belt, and AFK mine with drones. And any
Mm-hmm.
difference in the mining difference was made up for the fact that you could just do it AFK.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed things. So now mining barges are still are like way better, but it is still like if you just want to AFK in an orca, or if you want to AFK mine in high sec, you just grab an orca and you sit in a belt, which has made it so that like that is the symbol now of AFK mining in high
Okay.
sec.
Okay, but like what's the big problem with it though? Like what's the are gankers crying because they can't gank them or something, or are they saying it's too safe or something like that?
No, 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 no. The origin of this argument is actually the orcas who are getting ganked saying that that is griefing. Because
Oh,
here's the
okay.
thing. The essential argument that Hateless made is that suicide ganking that is not done for a profit is simply griefing, which should not be allowed. You don't gank an orca that's mining in a field because the stuff in their hold is so valuable, in the same way that you would gank, say, a paladin that's doing mission running, or whatever, or an incursion runner. You do that, or a hauler. You do that because you want the things inside, because it's worth more than the ship that you're using to gank. But the argument goes that these people are just ganking orcas for the sake of causing pain to the orca players, and
Mm-hmm.
that is quote unquote wrong.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with everything that he says up until the not allowed part. I think it
Yes.
should be allowed, right? But here we go again down this road of these suicide gankers being little crybaby bitches and getting their way. You know what I mean? Let's design an entire system around them being able to do it. You know what? I'm down, man. Like, I'm down. They want a suicide gank, right on. All right, do your thing. But it has always costed too little. It has always
That is a
been
good
too
point.
little bit of an
Mm-hmm.
investment. It is too much bullshit. Like people, like you remember when they used to delete the characters, and then they with two injectors were able to get them up, get their guns up and up. Go to hell, dude. It has to be. You have to have more investment with it. It needs to be. I'm not saying it needs to be more skill, like because the people that do it have a lot of skill doing it, but it's not enough investment, right? The cost of ships is so little compared to
Right.
the value. Like, there needs to be other ways around it. If they're not going to make it even more difficult, right? Then allow people to hire the goddamn space sheriffs to hang out, man. Hire Concord. Why can't they pay Concord a million isk an hour to sit there by them for 1 hour in a high sec? Why can't they? I
Right.
mean,
Why can't
I
you
go to a
build
bar.
mobile towers?
I go to a bar and there's a cop sitting there. He's not on duty. He's getting paid, right? He's getting paid by the hour by the bar. Why can't why can't people hire Concord to just hang out, right? And that Concord cannot get pulled away with their bullshit, with their little, getting in a pod and I'm flagged and now they have to go over here and now they have to go over there and I'm going to get in my starter ship and I'm going to get this. Oh, God. It is such bullshit. They're jumping through little hoops. Oh, my God. Like, the whole thing just disgusts me, man. Like, it's just so stupid.
So
Like,
you actually just made 2 points that I really really like. First and foremost, shoot, what was the first thing that you said? Oh, it's too easy. This is what I was talking about earlier, and I think it was Surgical Strike was the expansion or patch that I was talking about before, where the real issue isn't that suicide ganking exists. It's that if suicide ganking is a math game, then there's way too much magnification. Catalysts do far too much damage for their cost.
mm-hmm,
They can break open something that is significantly, it's almost impossible to be worth less
right.
than the catalyst it takes to destroy it. And I think that
Mm-hmm,
that's actually a big critical piece of it. I actually just thought of a really funny thing about the guards, right? So all of these guys the high seckers are saying that the only way that you should be able to gank somebody or kill somebody in high sec is if you war deck them. What if it's the opposite? What if you could pay a certain amount of money to make you not be able to be attacked? What if it costs you a few $100 million for a period of time, and then that prevents people from ganking you in high sec?
I mean, the problem would be that let's copy and paste that into the spreadsheet. How many hours a day? Blah blah blah.
Sure. But that gives you an option.
I mean,
you can add more overhead if you're really afraid of getting ganked and you want to prevent it. But my point is if the people being ganked are the ones pushing for a requirement, like, why wouldn't they be the one that pays the money to change change what's available?
How many human beings?
Yeah, actual mining permits. Yeah. Actual mining permits. Exactly. Sorry.
How many actual human beings are on an orca? Like how many? Roughly 10,000.
I don't have the numbers, but it probably somewhere between 1 to 10,000 probably.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So your little crew of people just murdered 10,000 people, and you're allowed to dock in high sec. Why is that a thing?
Well, a lot of them get away from escape pods, etc., etc. But no,
I mean, you're a murderer. Like you,
right.
Beyond murderer, you're slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people, and you're allowed to dock in high sec. I don't understand why that's a thing, right?
Right.
Hey, we can say it's standings, right? Okay, cool. At least you have to fix your standings, right, before you can dock. Then it has to be more involved. It's too simplistic for the amount of damage that you can do. The amplification of the damage that you can do with a suicide ganker is bullshit, right? It has to cost more. It has to be more, more than what this simple little dance that they do, right? Where they gang, and then they undock, and then they warp over here, and then they get the Concord to follow them, and then they warp back. It's the stupid dance isn't enough, right? It has to be more than that, man.
Yeah. Devil Ears says, I don't get why gankers are allowed to use Corvettes to get rid of their timers. That actually brings up another point. I made this argument a while ago. I want to pitch it to you, Ron. One of the things, I think that this would solve a lot of problems. Take shuttles and Corvettes and designate them civilian vessels. Civilian vessels cannot warp to anomalies and ignore criminal and suspect timers.
I mean,
then they couldn't undock their Corvette because it wouldn't trigger a Concord response. They'd have to use something real.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why people who murder 10,000 people have a 15-minute flag. I would imagine that someone who murders an entire ship of 10,000 people would probably have a permanent flag. You know what I mean? Hey,
yeah.
They're recognized by the system as a goddamn murderer. They're, a criminal.
You're
a criminal everywhere. Period. There's no flag that wears off. You're a damn criminal. We know who you are. Go to LowSec.
It's not like in the real world. If you're a fugitive and you manage to hide for a couple of years, then they're like, oh,
yeah.
I mean, there's statute of limitations,
you're good.
But
you're good. Oh, you're down at Burger King? Oh, cool, man. Yeah, whatever. Hey, golly willikers. Hey, it's all good, man. No, make them goddamn criminal. Make it shit last, dude. It has to be more involved, because here's what I would like. I would like more precision suicide ganking for cargo, for profit, rather than what we see for the most part now, which is Neanderthal bullshit, right? It's little coward punks just, killing miners because they can get away with it, right? And they can laugh at them, and they can, do that. Instead of, who's the ganker, man, that's really good at it? He does the jump freighters. I don't know. You know how bad I am with names. But I
Zenith,
talked to him.
I think.
Huh?
Zenith?
What's his name?
Isn't it Zenith?
He has like a whole fleet. He streams every now and then.
Dang it! Now I can't think of it either.
Yeah, it's like two names.
Somebody will know.
Yeah.
Kuhn. The Kuhn.
That's it. Kuhn. Jason Kuhn. That's it. See, more like him, right? So he does it the right way, right? He, will set up scouts. He's watching a line of jump freighters, right? Or of freighters, and he's picking them out. He's scanning. There's skill and there's involvement and there's a whole thing that goes into it, right? What the people doing that are killing orcas is they're just walking around with a ball bat, just hitting everybody they see, right? Like the kind of pinpoint of the freighter that has a lot, that's good stuff, right? That's the risk, man. And that's what I like about like that kind of ganking, Not this other little bullshit. Like, hey man, let's go kill the orca miners. Come on, dude. Like, get real.
I don't think anyone could give me. I challenge anybody to give me an explanation as to why it's a good thing, or why there's a legitimate reason to gank a venture, for example, right? Oh. Like, if you gank a venture, it's difficult to argue that you've done something valuable or good or even to yourself, right? Like, all you've done is killed somebody that probably is pretty new. And now, caveat to that, obviously there are situations where the ventures are used where that would not be true. But I mean, like, it's just in general, like some venture in a belt, like there's no way that you could actually justify that beyond I want to cause pain to somebody.
That was one of my favorite days streaming Eve. I don't know if you were there, Ash, but when, of course, get on the topic of ganking, and I'm, thumping the Bible, telling them, how, bad they are and this and that. And then there was two gankers in chat, and they're like, yeah, dude, nobody does that, bro. Nobody does that. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah, dude, I'm looking at Z-Kill right now, and nobody does that. I'm like, well, I don't think you're looking at it the right way. So I looked all through HiSec, right, for venture deaths, right? And there was literally someone, there was like 4, or 5 a day or 7 a day or something like that. And there was one that had just happened minutes before in HiSec. And I PM'd the guy, right? And I asked him, I sent him a tell, and I said, hey, I see you just died, why did you just die? Because I look up his character, and this is all on stream. I look up his character, and he's like less than 30 days old. I said, hey, why did you die? And he's like, oh, I don't know. They just come around and kill us sometimes. Really? And the ganker was like, dude, what? I'm like, exactly. The people that come into chat and that are willing to have discussion about it, like, and even though I may find a lot of you like kind of borderline toxic, like mean, but you're the best of them. That's the sad part. Like, you're the best of them. There's so many more worse gankers that will do, just the most horrible, like, and just rude, and like, it's like, all I'm saying, man, is the most egregious. It needs to have, a higher impact on the ganker's wallet. It needs to be more difficult to pull off to the point where, doing it to an orca isn't valuable unless it's got super, super valuable ore or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You gank a mining ship to punish the mining ship for mining, or to dissuade them from mining in that location or whatever. Not for the loot that you get from it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I can agree with that. I need to be wrapping things up. So,
hey, let me get out of here, brother.
Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about beforehand?
I just had a quick question. This is from a friend.
Okay.
Have there been any changes to asset safety? asking for a friend, of course.
So the last major change to asset safety would, of course, been abandoned structures. But I will say
not
this,
to the price or anything like that.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Not that I can.
I'm asking for a friend that may or may not have several Titans. Blah blah blah. And
I will say,
it's just such a thing.
That there is currently some pretty strong signals that. Well, let's put it this way. The entire asset safety system is ran by Interbus, right? Interbus is currently falling apart. Now, part of that's going to be the whole like Interbus points and all that stuff to make it so that we go and do stuff for them in order. But if they are losing their fund, like the empires are ripping themselves apart. They can't agree on anything. The last Interbus meeting, everybody walked out without an agreement. So if that becomes more problematic, that could very easily be used by CCP as a justification to change the availability of asset safety. I'll just put it that way. So it hasn't happened that I know of beyond abandoned structures, but there has been recently a pretty clear shot across the bow.
Okay. All right.
But thanks so much for dropping by and coming on and chatting, man.
Hey, dude, I'm always here, man. Anytime you need me, brother, just let me know. 100% support. Much love, man. Much love.
Thank you. All right, guys.